Blessed be everyone. Welcome to another Witch School Live. I am still in my corner. I've got very noisy construction around me, so I'm back in my corner again. And welcome to everybody watching the live. Welcome to those of you who are watching the replay as well. And welcome to those of you who are new. If you're new to Mystery Witch School, everything we do here, we talk about witchcraft, Wicca, we talk about magic, tarot, and shadow work. And today we are talking about how you deal with, maybe friends or family or other people, maybe people you work with, that are critical of your practices, because this can instill a bit of self-doubt in yourself. And even if you are very confident in your practices and you're really feeling connected, sometimes you can feel a little bit of hesitancy and doubt when it comes to dealing with the criticism. So we're going to talk about that today. So hello, Maeve. Try to love the dark, and Renisha. Awesome. So I'll just kick off here. For anybody who wants to start their witchcraft practice, but you just don't know where to begin because there's so much information out there, then I will just put a link here. It's a free video that I have. It's called How to Start Your Witchcraft Practice, and it's a little bit more formal than the videos I do here. It actually has PowerPoint slides, so it's a little bit more a little bit more formal. It'll just give you a bit of a skeleton as to where to start, what sort of things we normally would do in the craft, coming from not just a magical perspective, but coming from spiritual practices like the Wheel of the Year, working with the lunar energies, all that thing. So that video will just give you a bit of a plan and set you up for either doing it by yourself, or if you're interested in working with me or joining any of my online courses, there's some information at the end of that video about how you can do that as well. So the link is also in the description field below this video for those of you watching the replay, or if you just want to grab it there. Okay. So who else have we got? We've got Swakvan. Hello. I think that's all I really want to say as I wait for people to come on. We've got quite a few people coming on already, and I don't like to wait too long waiting for people, because I know that myself, when I'm watching a live, I don't want to wait for people. Okay, Universe Experiences, hello and welcome. So we'll get started with talking about the idea of skepticism and criticism from friends, from family, and society in general about your practice. And even within the pagan community, even within the witchcraft community, there can be a lot of going on when it comes to practices and beliefs. And it's kind of sad that it happens within the small niche that we're already in, that even witches don't see eye to eye over things or get on all of the time when it comes to beliefs. So these are a few tips for how you can deal with that. And if you want to jump in and comment either in the chat or in the comments field about your own experiences or things that you found work for you, yes, share them. That would be awesome. Okay. So when you're handling criticism or skepticism about your practice from friends, family, people in general, there's a few things that you can do to navigate the scene. The first thing is to understand that if people are very critical of something that you're doing, it's usually the problem isn't with you. The problem is actually with them. They're the ones who are having the problem. Okay. And because they're having a problem, they're probably experiencing a certain amount of fear themselves. A lot of the reason people will criticize and, be nasty or try to change you or try to convert you or try to bully you through whatever means they use is because they themselves are afraid. It comes from a fear-based thing. So understand that they're probably coming from fear. They can also be coming from simple ignorance, and that could be causing their fear and concern. They may not know anything about the craft, only what they hear in mainstream culture, or what they hear from maybe their upbringing, or if they belong to other religions that find, witchcraft or paganism in general to be a bad thing, then they're coming from that place. So there's ignorance there, and there is also fear there. So remembering that is important, because you have a choice over how you feel yourself. You don't have a choice over how they feel. They choose to feel the way that they choose, and there's not a lot you can do about that, but you can certainly choose how you feel when it comes to this. So one of the things we like to do is try to educate people as to what it is that you're doing. So sharing information about your practice in a calm way, in a non-confrontational way, which isn't always easy to do. So explaining the positive aspects of the craft, explaining how it makes you feel, it's changed you, how it's helped you, what you found in it that is of benefit to you, and if you're really using this as a spiritual practice, how it's changed the way that you connect to yourself, how you connect to other people, how you connect and change your life, how it's changed your life. And giving people examples of this is a way of sharing information and educating them, so that they're getting a personal view and a personal understanding of how the craft is experienced by you. So that's your own phenomenological experience of witchcraft and what that gives you. Hopefully, it gives you a sense of peace, it gives you a sense of empowerment and connection with nature. And when you think of your own practice and spend time reflecting on your own practice, it's good for you to ask yourself regularly, what am I getting from my practice? How is this benefiting me? How has it contributed to more positive aspects of my life? Do I feel better for doing it? Has things changed in my life for doing it? And when you're aware of those things yourself, it's so much easier to communicate those to other people. So letting them know what you do, what witchcraft is. Let them know it's a huge umbrella. That there's people within the witchcraft umbrella that practice in lots of different ways, lots of different traditions, and it's understanding each individual's approach to that spirituality that is important. So when people see the way that you've changed, if they're friends or family, and they see the way that it's having a positive impact on you, it's like you're an advocate for the craft yourself. So your behavior and the way you do things and conduct yourself is going to inform people of what the craft is and what the craft can do. So always be mindful of how the craft benefits you, and give yourself some time and think about that, and write it down in your journal if you want to do that, so that you're there sharing with them your personal experiences of it, as well as educating them about the sorts of things that you do. And that may help some people if they're people who are just ignorant, like they just didn't know, they're not educated, and they're open to finding out what you do, then they're probably going to be okay with that. And if they're still sort of criticizing it, it's just simply asking them. You can actually ask them, if you want to engage in anything, just ask them, what is it that you need to understand? What is it that you feel? Um, what is it that concerns you about what it is that I do? And then if you can answer any of their questions, you can. So they're for people who are willing to listen and open to being educated about the craft. However, that's not always going to be the case. And if anybody wants to share maybe your experiences of anybody maybe you do have in your life that is particularly critical of the craft, then yeah, share them in the comments or share them in the chat so we can use some real life examples and go with maybe some solutions to the situation. I have had atheist friends who, criticize all spirituality, and sometimes they might make a dig at you, make a bit of fun of what you do. I don't have a problem so much because I understand. Okay, they're atheists, or they're going to dig everybody who's got spiritual beliefs. So it's not like they're picking on you because you're pagan. They're just simply digging because atheists have a tendency to do that sometimes. And so I usually will just make fun of it myself. Sometimes I'll even make jokes on my own about, being a witch or being the craft, just simply because it's a way of our being able to make light of a situation as well. Like, I don't take the criticism personally. I don't take it as my problem, I guess. I see the problem that other people have as their problem. It's not my problem. And that's something that is to do with confidence in your practice and confidence in what you do. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But if you do need to set boundaries with people, you may need to let them know that you don't want to get into a conversation about religion or spirituality. That these topics are off limits in conversations because you feel that, you're not getting anywhere. There's no point in having a conversation with somebody who isn't going to have a conversation that is helpful. When people criticize, it depends, I suppose, on how they're criticizing. Like, they might just be questioning the validity of beliefs. They might be questioning, well, have you got any proof? That kind of thing. And all you can give them, of course, is your own personal experience or your own knowledge of what it is that you do. And if they criticize that, like they might be if they're critical in a sense that you feel it's not a positive criticism, like, it's some people might just simply not believe that and be okay with that. Some people might just go, well, I don't really get that and I don't really believe that, but it's okay if you do. Like, they'll just let you do what you do and they do what they do. But other people will keep pushing. It's like they're trying to push their beliefs onto you as to why you shouldn't be practicing or doing what it is that you do. And that's a way of them trying to push themselves onto you and their beliefs onto you. It's kind of like they're being like an activist for their beliefs, and they're trying to bully their beliefs and push them onto you. And that's when you might need to say, look, this isn't productive anymore. This conversation isn't being productive. So let's not go and talk about this anymore. And if they push you to, like, they criticize you for not wanting to actually engage in the conversation, just keep saying no. There's an assertion technique which is called the broken record technique. And this is where you just repeat over and over again the same thing until that person who's trying to push you and bully you into continuing a disagreement uh, actually gives up. So if you don't want to talk to somebody about it anymore, you found that the situation is not productive, it's not helping you, it's not helping them, you just keep saying, I don't wish to discuss this anymore. I'm not discussing this anymore. And every time they push or even ask you, well, why don't you want to discuss it? Just go, I'm not discussing it anymore. Uh, because you can explain it to them once. If they keep pushing, you don't need to explain it to them again. Okay, you can let them know, I'm not engaging this conversation anymore. It doesn't appear to be productive. It's not going anywhere. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. And just stick to your guns that way. Okay. Try to love the dark says, I feel like I can't tell my family because if my husband's family won't talk to us. Oh, okay. And when his mum died, he still lived with her. We had to sell the house and I came to live with him. Oh, okay, there's more. So are you still living with them? Because it is difficult if it's people that you're living with and that you can't tell them. And how that's affecting you not being able to tell them. It's good when you are trying to communicate with somebody to let them know how you feel about the situation. Like if they are bullying you or criticizing you, it's to let them know that, this is, I find that this, I feel like I'm being bullied or I feel like I'm being criticized. And this doesn't feel good. So it's taking ownership of the way that you feel, and it's also letting them know that that's how you're feeling and see what they do with that. Okay, only partially out of the broom closet. Okay, that's all right. Some of us have to sometimes stay a little bit into the broom closet because sometimes it's not actually safe to come out. But if you can set boundaries, just politely and firmly, just let them know that your practice is personal. You don't want to talk about it. It's not something you want to discuss in the way that you're having that discussion, and you don't need to pursue it just because somebody's trying to push you to pursue the argument. Another thing that I'm very, very picky about because it's so common these days, it's just everywhere, is that people have forgotten how to debate. They've forgotten how to have two different points of view and just stick to the points of view being different and discussing the differences of the points of view and why they don't hold the same point of view. And that is what a discussion is or a debate is. It's about just throwing out there what you believe, what your ideas are, what you know out there, and then the other person does the same. And you may never agree on the topic. But what happens is we get emotionally caught up in the criticism of the other person who disagrees with us. And we start to feel guilt or shame or doubt, and we get angry, we get resentful, and we want to lash out back. So it ends up being an argument and a fight rather than a sharing of information and a discussion about differences of belief or differences of experiences. And this is where all the names come in, where all the name calling comes in. We have all of the isms, we have all of the phobics now. We have people just throwing out names and saying, this is that, this is this, without actually having a proper conversation, without the emotions getting involved and just allowing the speech to talk about the differences of the belief without taking it personally and without giving personal attacks back at the other person. So you may find that when people are criticizing you, they may be giving you personal attacks. So it's like they're putting you down. They're working on you emotionally. They're trying to trigger you emotionally to get involved in a emotional debate as opposed to simply a debate over a topic. And if that's the case, that's when it's a good time to set boundaries and go, look, I'm not going to indulge in name calling. I'm not going to indulge in personal persecution. I'm not going to get personal about this. This is simply a difference in beliefs. It's a difference in our own personal experiences. And there's no point getting emotionally involved in this conversation because we're probably never going to agree on it. That's a really strong boundary to have. As soon as anybody starts calling you names or starts to put you down personally and try and condemn you personally for believing what it is that you believe and experiencing what it is that you experience, it's really important not to get emotional in an argument. It's okay to state how you're feeling in an argument, but you don't want the emotions to take over because what happens when the emotions take over is it actually shuts off the logical, rational part of our brain, and that's when things just go nowhere. It ends up, uh, snowballing into this really nasty argument, and things are said often that should never have been said. So it's best to cut it off before that happens. Okay. Uh, we don't live there anymore. We're lighting candles for his mother. They said don't do it because it's not right. Okay. Don't want my family to be the same. I think that's what I've got. YouTube's got a thing in front of it, so I can't read it properly. Okay. So if you feel like you can't tell them, it's understanding why do you feel that you can't tell them? Because it may be, simply the fact you can't tell them because um, of the situation. Um, and how does that make you feel? How is that affecting you not being able to tell them? And because it does come up, there comes a time when you have to make the decision about your sovereignty, your freedom of religion or beliefs and expression over having to keep other people pacified and happy, and what that means for you. And so you kind of got to weigh these things up. What is it going to mean for you? And what does it mean on your spiritual path? What do you feel you're being called to do by your higher self when it comes to your practice? And, some people get to the point, and this happens a lot sometimes with couples, where they start to end up splitting, I guess, because over spiritual differences. And I do know witches who have had to leave relationships because their partner has not been able to come to terms with their practice and with their beliefs. And because our practices and beliefs are so much a big part of our life path and our life journey, sometimes we have to go, well, if that part of me isn't being accepted, then I can't stay here anymore, because it's like you're not being fully accepted for who you are. You're not being fully accepted for a big, big chunk of who you are. I mean, our spirituality is very powerful. It's a big chunk of who we are. I mean, essentially, it is what we are. We are spiritual beings. So sometimes having to hide what you do away from family can cost you emotionally, and sometimes you have to weigh it up as to the cost benefits of staying in the closet. It may benefit you more. You may be quite happy not to share that part of yourself with people, and it may not affect you, and that's great. Other times you may feel that, I really do need to somehow share this at least with somebody, because it's a part of who you are, and you really want to be able to be who you are, particularly with the people who are close to you. And often the reason that they may not accept that is because of fear. They're afraid. They're afraid they're going to lose you, or they're afraid something bad is going to happen. And it's not just that they're afraid for you, they're also afraid for themselves, that they have to change or they have to do something different, because of your practices or what you do. So that can be some of the difficulty when it comes to friends and family with this, is you've got a lot of fear going on. And when we're in fear, we want to control. And that is it's something that you do have to learn to navigate it through, and it's not always smooth. Okay, firm boundaries, and every single person left. I'm a lone wolf. Okay. Well, hopefully you're an introvert. And it is a case of what your life path is too, where you're meant to be walking and how you're meant to be walking this journey in this life as well. Okay. It's more for me that I seek depth in everything I do now, or my soul shrinks. And a lot of people are emotionally unavailable. Had to cut my cousin off for the toxicity. I share my magic stuff online. Yes, and often we do have to cut people off because when you're on the path and you're starting to change, a lot of people can't come with you. You have to let them be where they are. And often that means that you no longer have things in common anymore, or that you're so busy dealing with your own changes and your own uh, progression that you don't have the energy to be dealing with people who have got a lot of toxicity and a lot of stuff going on. It's not everybody's path to work with people who are struggling or people who are toxic. There's some people that have come into this life to do that and work with that. And there's others who actually have come into this life to learn to get away from it. And so you've got to really understand that it's okay to leave people behind. You don't have to take care of them. You've got to take care of you first. There will be other people around who will probably be more inclined to that kind of work of being with people who are toxic and maybe even being able to help them, but they're a different person and they've come here with that as their path and what they do. Okay, being raised Catholic all my life, I recently started my journey on a different spiritual path. At gatherings, I get eye rolls and funny looks without discussing anything. It's aggravating. Yeah, so that's a way that people are passively trying to control you or passively criticizing you. They're not actually saying anything. They're doing it non-verbally. And that's their problem. I know that it probably irks you and it probably annoys you. Uh, it is their problem. And they're trying to make it your problem because they're trying to change you. They're in a state of fear. For some reason, they find that because you've changed your beliefs, somehow threatens their beliefs. It's like it instills a sense of doubt in them about their own beliefs. And this is something to understand, that if people are really confident in their own beliefs and their own experiences, there's no need to change anybody else. There really isn't, because you know that what you are experiencing is true for you. And if somebody has a different experience to that, and you're confident in your own experience, it's not going to threaten you in any way. So when people, particularly if they're religious, make fun of you or criticize you or just simply want to change you and argue with you and bully you, it's because they're doubting their own beliefs deep down inside. They're in a state of doubt themselves. And the fact that you're not agreeing with them is triggering that self-doubt within them. So remember, it is coming from them. And it's up to you how you want to deal with that. How do you feel you want to deal with that? Is it something that you would like to discuss with them? Would you like to, say to them, I notice that what's the eye rolling about here? I don't appreciate the eye rolling. That it's okay to assert what you're feeling when it comes to people doing that to you, because if they were really confident in their own beliefs and really spiritual themselves, they wouldn't do it. Peter Pan kept visiting Wendy, and all of a sudden she's old and like, yeah, we aren't doing this. You haven't changed, but I have. Yeah. And that happens. Going on a spiritual journey, a spiritual path is going to change you. It will change you. And a lot of people won't be able to keep up with you. Some people might go a different direction. Some people might take another path. And some people might come with you. And there's not a lot you can do about that. You just kind of have to accept it when it happens and navigate your way through that. So that was setting boundaries. So Another thing that is good to do is to try and find common ground with people, like highlight any similarities between what you believe and what they believe. Um, so, for example, we use a meditation. We use we connect to nature. We connect to spirit. We still have a sense of a moral code. We still have ethics. We still have these things, and often we can share those with others as well, and just letting know what the common ground is. So there's differences, but there's also common ground, and to discuss the common ground. Now that's important, because then people can realize that you're not as different as they thought you were. Our ego doesn't like difference; it's afraid of difference, and one of the reasons why we can be so anti this and anti that and afraid of this and afraid of that is because our ego sees difference as being dangerous. So understanding that not all differences are dangerous, that often they're just different, and that's okay. And also respecting differences yourself, is, of course. We have to also respect the differences that may be in a belief system, and understanding that maybe there needs to be a mutual respect. If the differences in beliefs or practices are not harming anybody or anything, then just respecting the differences is okay. You probably find that deep down it doesn't matter so much, unless they're practices that are harmful in some way, of course. It's good to have a support network. So if you can find other people of like mind who you can share your experiences with, you can share your problems with in regards to this stuff, does help. It helps you feel stronger in yourself. It'll help you feel like you're not the only person in the world experiencing this, and maybe you are losing it. Maybe they're right. Maybe I've gone down the dark path and something like that. If you've got other people in your community, even if it's online, that you can talk to and share with, it can just help you feel like you're not alone in the desert by yourself trying to deal with this. Okay, although I say I have a 1-year-old and a 6-month-old baby, I want to invite them to some of their pagan rites. So I've been thinking about talking about it with my family, and it's with both pagan Wiccan. Okay, yeah. So yeah, talk. Yeah, invite them if you want to. Yeah. Inviting people to rituals is a great way to help them see what it is that you do. My first coven was a training coven, and they would do public rituals on Sabbaths. And I took my atheist friend along, and he said, it's not that different to going to church. As far as he was concerned, it was pretty much the same. And I guess in that sense, it is pretty much the same. It's a ritual after all, and church is a ritual, and we sing and we do similar things. So to him, from an atheist perspective, being in a Wiccan circle wasn't actually much different to being in a church. To him, it was the same thing. So if you can invite people along who are open to coming and looking and observing what it is that you do, that can help. Sometimes they might see people dancing around a circle, or the way that we do things as being totally weird and off the planet. But it will help them understand that we're not, sacrificing animals or doing any of that crazy, stuff. That it's all very sort of positive, that what it is that we're doing, and that can help them with some of the fears if they've believed old myths or stories that aren't true about what pagans do. So that support network is important. So even if it's online, even if it's just coming on to a YouTube live and joining in the chat, or even just listening to other people's comments in the chat, and you can identify with those, it can help you feel like you're not alone, you're not the only one. Do feel more at peace and happy changing my spiritual beliefs, even though it's aggravating with the family. Realize it's something I needed in my life. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just Wiccans and pagans and witches that have this problem. Other people that have taken on non-Western religion have had the same problem, whether they've gone to Buddhism or Taoism or something. They've changed their belief system to the one they grew up in and was, say, a Catholic upbringing. Then there can be problems that come in from my family. My family were even, critical of Buddhism and other religions. So it's the fact that you've gone from their belief system to another belief system. It could be any belief system that you've gone to. It's that they feel challenged by the fact you've changed your belief system or you've changed your experience, really. And it's challenging them. It's causing fear and doubt within themselves. Do you have any tips for an overwhelmed empath who's overwhelmed? An overwhelmed empath who's overwhelmed. What's causing the overwhelm? Overwhelm tends to be a state of fear. So if you're in a state of fear, what are you afraid of? What is causing the fear there? Where's the doubt coming in? Where's the fear coming in? And find out what it is that you're afraid of. And that would be a good first step for overwhelm, knowing what it is that you're afraid of. The first thing, the thing we really should be looking for, I guess, in our life or in our practice is inner peace. That sense of peace, wanting to be at peace. So what's stopping you from being at peace? What are you believing or thinking or telling yourself that's stopping you from being in a state of peace? What's frightening you that you're being overwhelmed? What pressure are you putting on yourself here? Are you trying to, if you're an empath, you need boundaries. You need to go, where am I not asserting my boundaries here? Where am I getting involved in other people's stuff? Where am I judging other people? Where am I feeling that I need to help when maybe I shouldn't be helping? Where is the boundary not there, and why am I not putting it there? Do I have a belief that's stopping me from putting a boundary between me and the people around me? And what's that belief telling me? As an empath, that can help you understand where you're getting overwhelmed with other people and putting those boundaries up and not feeling guilty because you're putting boundaries up or feeling shame in any way because you're putting boundaries up. It's important that you do, because that's what's causing all of that overwhelm, and you have to shut yourself off from it and not get caught up in it. Okay, so when you are confident in your practice, you're going to be more secure in your beliefs. So, and with others see that you are confident in your practice, that can sometimes help them respect your beliefs if you've got the confidence there. So if somebody again is trying to bully you or argue with you about something and you're just very calmly telling them what you believe, or you're calmly just pushing back if they're trying to really bully and say, this conversation doesn't appear to be going anywhere, or I feel like you're trying to force your beliefs onto me. If you're confident in that and you're not giving back the same energy that they're giving you, then that can it can create more respect for you from them, and it may help them, cause them to back down from trying to pursue it anymore. And you may find that you're able to, have some kind of a working relationship with them, or even a friendship still with that person, because they know that you're confident with what you believe. And so therefore the problem is actually with themselves not being confident about what they believe. So It's simply a case of that. So really start to look at your practice and go, where am I not confident in my practice? What do I feel doubt in my own practice? And if I do, okay, where's that coming from? And work with that. There's a bit of shadow work in everything. And the shadow work is in life in general, and particularly in relationships with other people when we're interacting with others. The shadow work that we do on ourselves does help our interactions with other people. It helps with the boundaries. It helps with uh, being able to know when to help and when to pull back. Okay, there are covens here where I live, but they keep to themselves. Sadly, it's hard to get into one. I really want to connect. Yes, a lot of covens are very closed. They do keep to themselves for various reasons. I was fortunate in my first coven; it was a training coven, so they were open to people coming in because that's their function was to train people. And I don't think there's too many of those around these days. I don't know of any these days that are that way oriented. Um, so yes, it can be difficult to find a coven for sure. You could always kind of start your own. It's a huge responsibility to have a proper coven, like a full-blown coven, because there's a lot involved. But if you just want to start a group online, just an informal group of like-minded people, that's something that you can do too, possibly. When I had my meetup group, that's what it was. The meetup group was simply an opportunity to get together every month and celebrate the Sabbats, if there were Sabbats, or just get together and do tarot or do workshops on things of interest. It wasn't a coven, it was a meetup group, and we would meet up once a month. So being confident in your practice. So look where if you're getting riled or you get caught up in arguments with people and it starts to make you feel all icky and jittery and defensive, just take a step back and go, am I doubting myself here? Because if you weren't doubting yourself, you wouldn't be feeling those feelings. So take a step back, see where you may be getting caught up in the emotional doubt of your own. And when you have that time, go back into your practice and go, well, where was I doubting my practice? Where's a part of me listening to that other person criticizing me? Is it something from my childhood, particularly if it's family and they're still practicing the religion you grew up in and you're changing, and they're telling you all of this stuff that as to why your beliefs are wrong and theirs are right. And that can sometimes cause you to go into self-doubt because that programming from your upbringing is still there. It's still causing self-doubt because some of those programs are still there. Some of those beliefs are actually still in the subconscious mind. A lot of us, and I had this as well because I grew up Catholic too, and there was a part of me that I had to do a lot of tapping, EFT, on the belief that there's something wrong with being a witch, that it's bad and it's wrong. Even though I'd been practicing for a long time before I discovered that I had this belief, I had to actually tap on that to get rid of that belief because it's something that I grew up with. And even as a child, I loved witchcraft. I was always fascinated with the occult and with magic and all of that. That upbringing, when I'd go into my imagination and see where the problem was, where that icky feeling was, I would see a nun. And that indicated to me that there was something in there from my Catholic upbringing that was still causing me to doubt what I was doing. And that was one of the reasons I held off even doing Mystery Witch School, because that was one of the beliefs that stopped me from doing it. So it's interesting what's down there in the subconscious mind still from our experiences growing up that still causes doubt in ourselves about our path and our practices. even when it brings us the joy, it brings us the connection, and we're really, really feeling how wonderful it is, that doubt's still there in that subconscious mind. So that's where the shadow work can help get rid of it. It would be nice to find a training coven in New York City. Yes, indeed. Okay, so that's your confidence. I said this at the beginning, but it's important to remember that if conversations do become heated or confrontational, it is best to disengage and walk away from the conversation. Excuse yourself and maybe go back and revisit the conversation with them once the emotions have settled down. But if you find that the emotions are getting, heated, and they're building and building and building, and there's a bit of, name calling starts to come in, and there's a bit of personal attack that starts to come in, that it's no longer just a debate on an intellectual level of differences, then it's time to call it quits and back out of the discussion, because an emotional discussion will not get anybody anywhere. It's not the place for emotions. A discussion about differences of belief is not a place for emotion. It is the place where the rational, logical mind is more, and is sharing our experiences, sharing what we're feeling, but not acting on what we're feeling, if that makes sense. That's not the place. Emotions are a guidance system, so they guide us to know what we're experiencing. And then once we know what we're experiencing, we then should hang up the phone and then take the action that we need to take on that, which would mean probably disengaging from the conversation rather than getting involved in a heated argument of name calling and just putting people down and not really having a proper conversation. And that's unfortunately the way a lot of people have learned to argue, is through name calling and through putting other people down, and even labeling a belief, or labeling an attitude, or labeling a discussion as something, giving it a name, and rather than actually addressing the actual content of the discussion itself. We tend to want to control other people when it comes to the emotions. So just be aware of that. It's okay to back out. Even if they call you names for backing out, like you're a coward or something because you don't want to talk about it, just go, great, I'm a coward. Off I go, When you do shadow work and you can tap into those parts of yourself that you wish you didn't have, like cowardice, for example, if you can be in touch with your inner coward and you know that it's there to keep you safe. And if anybody then calls you a coward, when you know that you're doing it for the right reasons, it won't affect you so much. You can just go, yep, I'm a coward. Call me a coward. I don't care. We're not going to have this conversation isn't going to continue. Okay. So I said at the beginning about sharing personal stories. That can be very powerful with some people. Some people sincerely just want to know, why don't you believe in this anymore? Why do you believe in that? Why are you doing that? And when you can share with them sincerely, this is how I feel. This is what I experience, when I do this. Sometimes that can be enough for them and they're quite happy with that. They would be people who are very confident probably in their own beliefs. And so really it was just a curiosity as to why you wouldn't share their beliefs. But once they see that it really means something to you and that you're experiencing something very positive, if they're confident in their own beliefs, they will accept it. That's the difference between those who are confident and those who aren't. Staying informed too about your practice is also a good thing to do. So if people do have questions for you, you can answer them. You can give them informed answers. So again, studying the craft, learning the craft is important to do. The more that you know, the more you can share with other people. So that is very helpful. And understanding your legal rights as well. I think in most Western countries, there's freedom of religion. So if there's freedom of religion, that means that your religious beliefs are something that you are entitled to have, and that other people can't. There is a line that has to be drawn. That you have a right to practice witchcraft, you have a right to practice Wicca, and that's how it is. I know that a lot of fundamentalists in other religions, namely, again, I suppose, speak about the Abrahamic religions, but they do seem to be the ones that are more guilty of this, is that they do try to make out as if they've got the right to tell you what to do and what not to do, and that they've got the right to harass you, they've got the right to bully you, they've got the right to troll you, they've got the right to tell you you need to, that you need to seek Jesus and forgiveness, or that, Allah is going to condemn you for being a witch, all of those sorts of things. And that's because, I'm on YouTube, so I do get these trolls. So these are the sorts of things they say. And it's just understanding that this comes from their religions, and that their religions are being monotheistic, tend to be, we're right, you're wrong, and we won't have a bar of it. But there is laws in most Western countries, I think, and probably all of the Western countries, where you do have the right to be a pagan, to be a witch, to be a Wiccan, and to practice that, in as long as it's not harming anyone or anything, then or contravening other laws, that there's a legal right there for you too. So always remember that, because the bullies in the fundamentalist religions they forget that. They think they still have the law, and they don't have it. Hopefully they won't get it. They had it once. Hopefully they won't. They've still got it in other countries, but hopefully that won't happen. Otherwise, we're in deep trouble. Okay. So I hope that's helped you with navigating your way around it. It's really a case-by-case situation too. Everybody's got a different situation, so you have to take it case by case. You have to look at the pros and cons. You have to be able to do your own shadow work, do your own work on yourself and your own self-confidence and your own self-love and your own self-acceptance of warts and everything. And, if there's parts of yourself, to recognize those parts of yourself, and to work on changing things that aren't helpful for you within yourself. And if you keep on that path of working on your practice and on understanding yourself, then when these other people come along, you're able to manage it in a more calm and a more centered way. And it's up to the other person then what they do. It really is. It's about standing in your power and being empowered to be able to communicate what it is that you need to communicate. If you've got to put up boundaries, put up boundaries. Try not to get caught up in that emotional mess of name calling, or putting something in a box and saying that box is and labeling that box something, when you haven't actually really had a conversation about all the nuances of what's in the box. That kind of thing. And there's a lot of that happening now. We see it all the time. And no one knows how to have a logical, rational debate or a logical, rational discussion. And that's a sad thing. I think that it's important to state what we're feeling, simply as a statement of what we're feeling, and then talk about the topic from a more rational point of view, and allow the emotions to do their job, which is inform us of what we're feeling. Inform us that, hang on, okay, maybe I'm feeling threatened here, and then to take appropriate action from there. And if you do want to learn Wicca and Witchcraft with me, I have Mystery Witch School 101 Academy. It's a 12-month course, and I take you right from the very beginning of the practices. So this is doing energy work. It's also doing work on yourself as well. So it's connecting you to your practice. It's connecting you to you, and getting you back on your sense of connection to who you are and what you're doing here, connecting you to your potential. And this is through the practices of the craft. So through doing energy work, through doing some self-reflection, through working with magic, working with building a circle, and working with the elements, working with all of the solar cycles and the Sabbats, working with deities, working with the goddess and god energies as they manifest through different aspects, and building that as a practice on a daily basis so that you're feeling connected to who and what you truly are. And the more you practice, the more you start to realize that we are amazingly powerful beings, and that we have been led way down the garden path or the goat track into believing that we're not. And so much of what we've been told and still being told in mainstream culture, mainstream life, is the opposite of what we truly are. And it's only through practicing the craft and really being in your practice and discovering all of these things about yourself that you realize that, hey, I've really got to go on a journey of discovery here, because all of the stuff I've been told, a lot of it is just simply isn't how it truly is. So that's what the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy is there to help you do. It's to help you get started with all that stuff. And so I will put a link in the chat. There's also a link in the description field below this video for how you can enroll in that as well. So I'll just pop it in here too. Okay, everybody, thank you for the love. And who else have we got here that I didn't see? Joe River, be nice. I've read that one. Nice. And Dolly Nelson, Ida just got here. Look for the replay. Yep, go for the replay. And yes, I hope it helped. And if you do have any more questions, or if you want me to talk more about something in another live or on a video, let me know in the comments field what you'd like to talk about. I'm talking about shadow work this week. So that will follow on from some of the stuff we talked about here as well. So thank you, and we'll see you next week. Blessed be.